Wow, welcome everyone. Today is the day that we are going to start a new series I've called 40 Days of Courage, and I'm super excited to start this series with you. Welcome to everyone who is watching us live on YouTube. And I've got a little echo going on, so I'll just turn that off. There we go. Wow, it's lovely to see you guys here. I'm currently writing this book as an encouragement to mums because honestly, becoming and being a mother is one of the toughest, most stretching, most transformative journeys a woman can go through. Motherhood asks a lot of us. You know, it reshapes our identity, our bodies, our relationships, our priorities, our capacity, our faith, and our dreams. And somewhere along the way, many women begin to shrink not because they're weak, but because they've poured so much of themselves out for everyone else. But I really deeply believe this. You were never created to become just a mum. Okay, motherhood is totally sacred, but is not the burial ground for our dreams, our growth, our courage, our creativity, our leadership, or our calling. And, the book is definitely not released yet, but I wanted to bring you on the journey, which is what I love to do with me, chapter by chapter, because my heart is to help women rise. And, um, and I want you to rise within the toughest season of your life because I think that it is more than doable. It is absolutely possible. I don't want you to rise through pressure. I don't want you to rise through hustle culture, even though we're called mum with a side hustle. But I want you to rise through courage. Small, courageous steps back towards who God created you to be. So each week, I'm going to be opening one of the chapters up and the deeper lesson behind it, and hopefully encourage you wherever you're at on your journey. Okay, let's check that we're all live in all the right places. Hi, Sophie, lovely to have you here. And we've got 4 mamas watching, so drop your name in the chat if you're here with us. I'm just going to make a little tweak here on Zoom. Yeah, tell us where you're watching from. Give us, like what's your side hustle? What have you been up to? We would love to know more and be here with you. Here we go. I'm just going to fix my name. My name is not Zeph Alicia. It is Alicia. Zeph is my husband. He is an amazing man and I love him dearly. But my name is Alicia. Okay. Ladies, it is great to be with you. Now I'm going to bring up all the right pages. Let's see. Okay, I can see the chat. Hi, Brian. Ohinaitati. Onahiti? Onahiti? You tell me if I've said that. Ohinaiti. That's where Sophie's from. It's not a tongue twister. It's just whether you know your Māori vowels or not. Hey, Sophie, is that right? Okay, cool. I've got everything up on the board now. I can see us all here and I can see the live chat. Okay, so today's conversation is for the woman who has ever felt the tension between what she's been always been told and what she feels stirring inside her. I think so many of us, especially as women and mothers, reach moments in our life where we feel invited into deeper growth, but growth often asks us to step beyond what's familiar, acceptable or comfortable. And that can be terrifying. And I know some of the mums on this call have definitely been called up to grow in ways that are totally uncomfortable. And I have a friend, and he says that he's not interested in your comfort, he's interested in your growth. Now, I don't know if I am only interested in your growth, but all I can say is that um, your growth is very, very important. I do think that God is a God of comfort. And so I think that He wants to comfort you through the things that you find hard. So I think He does care about your comfort, but maybe not about you being comfortable all the time, if that makes sense. Anyway, so back to today's conversation. Today's call is coming from a very spiritual moment in my life. And it was very transformative. But beyond the specific experience itself, I think that this chapter in the book speaks to something that many of us face as women. It speaks to the courage to explore beyond what we've always known. It speaks to the courage to seek God for ourselves, the courage to stay open when life invites us into deeper growth and transformation. Because sometimes the moments that change us most begin with a simple willingness to say, God, is there more? So wherever you're watching from today, I'd love you to keep saying hello in the chat and maybe share one word that describes the season that you're currently in, because I would love to hear from you. And I'm going to see if we've got anyone else who's joined us, so I haven't missed you. Oh, that's so cool. Divine Life Diaries is here. Hi, my friend. Hi, Laura. Okay, so let me just share with you just a little bit from the story from the book today. So we were squeezed into a long, low shed, lights dim and hearts eager as we prayed quietly together, creating a soft din. The bench below me was old wood, and there wasn't a lot of fresh air coming into the shed that night. There were around 25 of us, 13 to 18-year-olds from our Christian school, who had volunteered to go on this missions trip to Fiji. And this weekend was meant to be our training. What strikes me most when I think back to that moment is how childlike my faith still was. I wasn't analyzing everything. I wasn't trying to control the outcome, and I wasn't worried about looking silly, although I was a little worried. I was more hungry for God than I was worried, let's be honest. And I think somewhere along the way, many of us lose that same openness. It's definitely um, came more naturally as a younger person. But in that shed that night, something shifted inside me. And I opened my heart. I discovered how my relationship with God could be even more personal. And I really hope for all of us that we can learn to do that in our life, that we don't just learn the lesson of cautiousness or that people disappoint us or that experiences shape us, that we stop expecting God to meet us personally. There is so much more from God for us. Why don't you say yes if you agree with that? Um, so, yeah. So, what this chapter is really about is the courage to question what you've always been told. Um, I just realized I haven't actually told you what happened in the chapter. So, let me tell you. Actually, let me read it to you because I think that you will enjoy it. It's very short, but I think the rest of the story is definitely worth reading together. Here we go. So this is the second chapter in my book. I actually haven't written the first chapter. Maybe it'll be the first one, I don't know. But 40 Days to Courage and just moments from my life. So it's a bit foggy how we got there, but amongst the weekend of mud, fun, and friendship, this evening was preparing my heart for more than just a volunteer trip to share the message of Jesus in Fiji. I was about to be introduced to a prayer language I had been told was locked into the experience of those in the book of Acts and them only. After we were taught about the gift of tongues, my heart was full and excited. I wanted my own prayer language to speak to God. And I've actually discovered, and I will need to amend the book here, that it's not just us speaking to God, it's God actually praying through us for us. And that has been a recent, like 2 months ago, revelation that I have oh man, I've had so much transformation from. God prays through us when we pray in tongues. I wanted to know what it would be like to connect with him and feel him with me. I opened my mouth and the sound ka, 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 came out. I was young and had far less skepticism than sadly comes with age. So my first thought was, wow, cool, this is real. Like a child, I simply believed. The feeling in the room was electric, and sitting in my spot, I turned my palms upwards, thinking about the Holy Spirit and the opportunity for friendship, and simply praying "Ka, ka, 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 ka," over and over. In that moment, I chose to shatter the glass ceiling of religion I had lived under. I had been taught a different story about tongues, namely, that it was for the sharing of the gospel in different languages, and it was not a heavenly language or a personal way of connecting with God. And if it had ever been that had now finished, that God doesn't want us to do that anymore. I felt the weight of pushing against the religious teachings I'd learned until that point. And at 13 years old, I chose to discover for myself the truth about the gift of tongues. The gift of tongues was pivotal for me. Until that time, I had desired to pray and connect with God, but struggled to feel Him close, sense Him, and know He was there. But as that free flow started, my faith grew, and with it, my confidence that God was my friend, my comfort, and my guide, and that I would never, ever be alone. It steadied me through many years of choosing a different spiritual pathway than the church I was born into. I opened my heart, my mind, and my eyes to the spiritual world, and I was taught that I had been taught not to believe in. And it shaped me, creating in me wonder about all the things beyond the current truth I held on to. Little did I know that both the gift of tongues and the freedom to converse with God by myself, from myself, um, that choice to be able to take hold of it in that moment, they were gifts for me. I believe that along our life's journey, God offers us poignant moments, moments where we get the opportunity to break into a new reality, to choose whether to follow the common path or forge into something less known. So that's where I will pause the reading. Why don't you say yes if you're with me? If you were like me as a young person and you started to question whether it was like I did, questioning what I'd been taught by a religious system was actually true, or if you just were like generally questioning about life. I think that that's the design of a teenager, to be honest with you, is to question. Okay, so what this chapter is really about is the courage to question what you've always been told, now that I've finished reading most of it to you. And that can be uncomfortable because many of us build our lives around inherited beliefs. Okay, so we inherit these beliefs from the world around us, from our parents. Some of these beliefs we inherit that we didn't even realize that we picked up, but we've picked up from school or from it's what I would call these things as narratives, the storylines of our society, our culture, our peer groups, our family. There's all these narratives, the narratives about God, motherhood, success, money, beliefs, narratives about what kind of woman we're allowed to become. And sometimes courage looks less like rebellion and more like quiet curiosity. I remember once telling my brother, "You're allowed to ask God questions," and realizing that that had become so normal to me, but it was so foreign to him. And it looks like asking, what if there's more available to me than I realized? And for me, that moment in the shed became a doorway into a more personal relationship with God, not secondhand, not filtered through someone else's experience, but something I encountered for myself. And I think many women are secretly longing for that in all areas of their life. Yeah, Bron's with me. I'm just checking the messages here. Yeah, that's cool, Sophie. It's a great place to start is questioning. So I don't think it's just about faith because to me faith is like having faith in something. I think that the journey that a lot of women are actually longing for is a journey of knowing your own voice, of having your own convictions. And often we don't know our convictions until they are like we've had a confrontation about our convictions. Maybe something goes wrong and you get deeply distressed in some way, or you have a really emotional outbreaking about that. That's actually your convictions telling you that something is wrong. Something is really wrong with what you've been told or what you've experienced. I think that women are longing for their own dreams. I think that they're longing for their own relationships, with purpose and their own experience of growth. And courage really feels powerful in a moment. Usually it feels like being uncertain or messy or risky, or you might disappoint someone. That's actually what courage sometimes looks like. I might have to face a confrontation after I try this. Um, yeah, I love what you said there, Laura. Love the childlike faith reminder. Just let go in those moments. And that's so true. And it can become a habit. It can become a normal thing to let go. And I do think as I've got older, it's become much easier, especially in public, to just be like, this is genuinely how I experience God. And that's wonderful. That's beautiful. But in my younger years, it definitely, the first time I raised my hands, or the first time I prayed out loud in a prayer meeting, or I did something in a new environment, it definitely felt very confronting. So, what can we learn from this story, or what is something I want to bring forward for us? I think motherhood is a way of bringing us face to face with ourselves. I think it's because it strips away a lot of noise. Someone told me before I became a mother that motherhood has this way of helping you figure out who you really want in your life and who you don't, because you actually don't have time for everything and everyone. And so you have to, um, I want to say be picky, but it's not even being picky. It's just like you literally don't have the capacity for everything. And so this is why it strips away a lot of the noise. I know for some people, the isolation of motherhood is massive, but it's also highlighting to you that some of that noise was noise that you didn't need. And maybe it's too quiet now, but now that it's all gone, you get to choose what you add back in. So, somewhere between raising our kids, carrying our responsibility, and pouring ourselves out constantly, many women quietly lose connection with their inner world. I would say that it's losing connection, but it's like a transformation that you go through. So your dreams can become dormant, or you have to rewrite them. Your confidence can change, and your curiosity can get buried underneath surviving. But one thing I've learned is this: the women who transform their lives are usually willing to question the limitations they inherited. It might be spiritual, emotional, financial. Sometimes it's just questioning, do I have to live exhausted, overwhelmed, disconnected from myself forever? Um, and there are some beliefs that I want to challenge. I want to challenge the idea that mothers shouldn't want more, that motherhood should be totally fulfilling in itself. I want to challenge that dreaming is selfish. I want to challenge that you need permission from anybody to act on your dreams. And I want to challenge that you have to stay small to be accepted, especially my Kiwi mamas. I really want to challenge that one. Because if you want to grow bigger, you will need to be seen. And if you are seen, you will need to be you. And some people might not choose to like you. And growth often comes with tension because the familiar feeling of being safe is easier than going out into the unknown. But that familiar, doesn't always lead us into freedom. And I think many women already feel deep inside them that they were created for more than just surviving. Come on, I want to hear from you guys. Were you created for more than just surviving? Because I was created for more than just surviving. Surviving? Surviving. Not more striving and not more pressure, but more aliveness, more purpose, more expansion, more connection with who God created them to be. And a tiny moment of courage can completely redirect a life. That moment while I was 13, I had already felt the power and the love of God. But to start speaking in tongues, it actually changed the way I encountered God completely. And as an adult now, I really get it. I get why. But as a 13-year-old, I didn't know. And I'm just so grateful because that way of connecting with God through tongues and what it opened up in the spiritual world gave me the confidence to believe that I was actually hearing God speak to me, that I could have a two-way relationship, not just like I have to follow the Bible and get all the right answers from there, but God won't actually talk to my specific situation. Just completely changed me. And I believe for so many of us, it might be tongues. Maybe today you really want to pray in tongues. And all I would say to you is get yourself in a quiet place, put on some great worship music that you love, open your heart, and just ask God and just start to whisper whatever comes out your mouth. And I know that the Holy Spirit is going to move inside you. But it could be something else. There might be a post that you need to write. I don't know what it is for each one of you, but I think life gives us these tiny moments where we can rise up. Maybe it's I mean, I've had experiences where I've been in places and people are scowling at me because of the way my children are acting, and I know they're just being children and they're actually probably behaving better than they often do. Maybe it's just like giving a kind word to that person or a stern word. Maybe it's saying no sometimes when you've always said yes. I think that some of these moments we're offered to rise up in courage, they can totally redirect the path of your life. And I want to encourage you to look out for them. So I want you to think honestly about this tonight. Have you ever had a moment where you felt invited into a new reality, but it challenged what you'd always known to be true? Okay, has it been in your faith, in your motherhood, in your business, or on your healing journey? What was that moment? And what's something in your life right now that you feel quietly drawn toward, but slightly afraid to fully step into? And we're going to chat about this more on the Zoom call soon. So even if you don't share it publicly, um, I want to encourage you to journal about it later. You know, what is the moment that you feel quietly drawn towards, but afraid to fully step into? Because sometimes the life-changing moments begin with honest reflection. So this week, I want to challenge you to create a space to hear yourself again, not social media, not everyone else's opinion, not pressure, just you and God. I did this last week. I have been on a great roll with momentum, and then we had a event here. We went away, and then I came home last week, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm just having a week off. And I stopped posting. And I was like, I'm not going to be afraid of losing my momentum because I actually need this week. And so I gave myself that week. So, for you, like creating a space might be journaling honestly, praying openly, sitting quietly, writing down a hidden dream, or exploring an idea you've been afraid to admit matters to you. And if there's something stirring deep inside you, don't immediately shut it down. I want you to sit with it because tiny courage changes lives. Yeah, it's so cool, Sophie, that diving deeper spiritually has been like a big change or a stepping into for you. Yeah, because of your upbringing. And we can chat more about that because I know how that can feel. Well, mamas, I'm going to bring this to a close. If today's conversation has stirred something in you, and if you know there's more inside you than simply surviving the daily rhythm of life and motherhood, I've created something that can help you begin to explore what that could look like. It's called 5 Ways to Get Started with a Side Hustle, and it's actually more than business ideas. It's not business ideas, it's something else. 5 other ways. It's really a starting place for women who want to rebuild belief in themselves. They want to grow personally and begin creating a life with more freedom, purpose, and possibility. And inside, I'm going to be sharing tools, mindset shifts, and that next step to help me begin changing my life little by little. And for women wanting a deeper accountability and support, I also have shared the Master the Code Challenge journey inside that free little piece as well. So I'll leave the link below in the comments. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here, mamas. I truly believe all women carry courage that can change generations. And we have a lot of women in our history who have done that very thing. They never let motherhood stop them, and you shouldn't either. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to question old limitations. You are allowed to become someone new. And sometimes the bravest thing we do is simply stay open to what God may be inviting us into next. Next week, we're going to be diving into another chapter of the 40 Days of Courage, and I think it's going to speak deeply to many women walking through transition and growth right now. If you're part of the Mum Tribe, we're going to be live in the Zoom room straight after this call. And if you'd like to get access to our Zoom room, then you just need to grab my 5 ways to get started with a side hustle, which I've said 3 times, and I'll send you a Zoom link. But thank you, everyone. Blessings. It's been so great to see you. And I will see you in the Zoom room.